So I've just come off a couple of golf schools, and what was really interesting is every single student, when they were on the fairway, were really struggling to strike their shots consistently. Some were striking the ground behind the golf ball, some were topping it along the ground, but they could never get a consistent strike. Sometimes they were striking great, but it was not consistent. By the end of the session, we'd really improved the quality and the consistency of their ball striking and the distance they hit every club. Now, the way we did this was by controlling when this club bottomed out, the low point of this club. Now, everyone had their own little problems, own little faults. And in this video, what I want to do is I want to share with you 5 simple ways to improve your ball striking. Now, you won't need them all, just maybe 1 or 2 or a combination of them will work a treat. But by the end of the session, I can guarantee the consistency of your ball striking will improve just like it did for my students. So let's start with now tip number 1. So the first thing to do is this. You've got to recognize that if you want to strike a ball really, really well, you've got to strike that ball, then the ground. And to do that, this lead arm and club only lines up after the point of contact. Too often golfers are basically, this lead arm and club are lining up too early here, but so by the time he gets to the golf ball now, we've got almost kind of this flicking motion here, and that's going to give you your fats and your thins and also your weak hits. So a simple drill is this. I get people to draw a line in the middle of their stance, either with foot spray. I sometimes get them to jump into a bunker, draw a line in the sand, and all I get them to do is do a little test. Can they strike the ground ahead of that line and create a shallow divot? Okay, what do you think happens? Sometimes they strike it over here, sometimes they strike it over here, but it's very, very inconsistent. Other people misinterpret this. What they do is they go, yep, Danny, I'm striking ahead of that line, but they come in and they've got these massively deep divots. That's a shocker too. That just is an out to win path. We don't want that. So we want ahead of that line and shallow divots. Your body's super smart. And it was for a couple of my students. They simply worked it out. They, okay, Danny, they got a few behind the line. Then they started to consistently get it, and their body organized itself in a way to get that over here to strike the line or the divot after that line. Once they'd done that and shown me that in the bunker a couple of times, I then got them to line up some balls like this and hit a few shots. And again, what they were able to do is start to look at this and then judge where they were striking the ground relative to that golf ball. Simple as that. Now look at that divot there, look, low points after the golf ball. I could do this all the time, right? But for some of my students, this simple drill didn't work. They needed something more technical. Let's move on to tip number 2. So if you struggle with your ball striking, this I see a lot. So what happens is this, golfers who know they should be striking the ball then the ground find it very difficult because what happens is their head moves off the golf ball here. Now the problem is if you stay there, you're going to strike the ground behind the golf ball. If you make a lunge, how do you time that? It's too inconsistent. Great ball strikers off the fairway have a very, very steady head, okay? So to help you achieve this, what I've got here is I've put an alignment stick just inside my trail heel. Now, if you obviously move back, you're going to get close to hitting it. You won't really, it's more of a visual tool. But what I want you to do is imagine you're keeping your head fairly steady here. And what you're going to do is you're going to come into the golf ball in such a way that misses the alignment stick, strikes the ball, then naturally strikes the ground. So it's encouraging you naturally to get that weight onto that lead side here and come through. Focus here like you've almost got something holding your head. You'll see even some tour coaches in the past, they put stuff on the side of their head here, hold a shaft next to it here, and they're simply turning inside that shaft. They're not letting themselves move across. So super simple, keeps your head nice and steady and really helps you get that ball, turf, contact. Now this worked beautiful for a few of my students, but one of them, Joe, actually, although it really improved his low point, he started to strike the ball better, he lost a little bit of power. And the reason being is he fell into the trap of this. Yes, you want to keep your head steady, makes sense, right? But you still need to move your body. Now the problem was with Joe is what he was doing is he was basically kind of not moving at all. He was keeping his head now dead still and not actually getting any movement of the body. You've got to be able to turn that body in such a way that keeps a steady head, and nobody does this. What I tend to see happening is this. People focus on turning away, and if all you do is turn, the head's going to move off the golf ball. You've got to make sure that this also looks some form of side bend or tilt in here, because if you have a tilt this way, now look at this, as I'm turning, I can stay over that golf ball. So here's what I want you to do, and this is what I gave Joe. I said, Joe, you need to just feel how the best players move, right? So get yourself set and simply just tilt down here. Now when you do this, don't push out here, just side bend here and turn that lead shoulder towards the golf ball, down towards the golf ball here, and extend up a little bit here. Now that way, now he's got a sensation of turning and tilting in a way that's going to keep him steady. If I just turn, I'll look like this, but if I tilt and turn, now suddenly I'm able to keep a steady head and get power look back into that golf ball. Now with Joe, we didn't hit golf balls to start off with. I actually got him going through exercises of going tilt, turn, extend a little bit here. Tilt, turn, extend. Then I've got him, he was up there, he got into a great position. We looked at it, we did some mirror work with him. Once he got the sensation of this, we then applied exactly the same thing again. We put this kind of drill in place and got him very slowly getting that tilt in place here. Steady head, back to the golf ball. Steady head with a tilt, back to that golf ball. And then very, very slowly, we wound it up really slowly here and played some soft style shots, just until he got the feel of it, okay? So yes, you want to keep a steady head, but you've got to move that body in such a way to work to treat. Let's move on to tip number 4. So a couple of my younger players in the group loved this, and it really, really helped their ball striking off the fairway. I just basically mentioned to them, said, look, don't take a selfie. And they were like, what? I said, don't take a selfie when you're playing golf. I said, look, most of the time you're hitting the ball bad because what you're doing is this, you're taking a selfie. And what this is doing, okay, is creating this kind of flicky motion through the impact. So what I want you to do is this, I want this angle here at impact, I want you to compress the golf ball. I don't want you to take a selfie, I want you to point the phone here, grab your phone, point it towards the ground. Now look, point it away from you. And then when you're coming down, don't point it towards you, point it away. And then when you come in impact, look, just imagine it keeping away. Now, that immediately gets your wrist angles, or feeling what the correct wrist angles are. And then secondly, I said, look, most people end up releasing too early. Why? Because they're throwing the club down towards the ground. I want you to throw the club basically at an angle like this, at this angle. If you throw downwards here, the club will straighten. But look, if you throw the club this way, that angle, so my trail arm look is going across my body as such, suddenly then the release happens that little bit later. So don't take a selfie, get that sensation here in that trail hand, keep it there, and then throw the club at an angle this way, not this way. And that's going to help you get that compression. Let's have a look at this in action. Beautiful. So don't take a selfie, enjoy that lovely compression. Now, before I move on to tip number 5, which is an absolute belter, look, if you're enjoying this type of content, I release it every single week to try and help you improve your game. So press that subscribe button and the bell. Plus, there's a free downloadable practice guide in the description box below, so you never have to remember a thing. So tip number 5, look, if you're struggling with your ball striking, a lot of the time, as you know, you're kind of flicking those wrists and you just can't stop that flick through impact. A lot of times it's just through feel, all right? So what I do, my students love this. Take a club, grip it down here just like this, okay? And then what we're gonna do is I'm simply gonna make a pivot of my body through impact here. I'm gonna square up the face, look, and as I'm coming through, what do you notice? This shaft, look, is away from my lead hip. If I start to release this club too early, I'm immediately going to start hitting that shaft on my body, okay? If I cheat the drill and I just do this, yes, the shaft is away, but where's the club face? Wide open. So we do kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We let the club release square, but at the same time, look, we keep it naturally away from the body. Build this feeling in, okay, simple as this. Go up the shaft bit by bit, build that sensation. Then go on to the grip here, build that sensation in. I've still got this kind of alignment sticking here to encourage a downward strike as you're doing this. And then I would do with my students, like I do with my students, I'd start off really, really small and gradually build this up. Just like that. Beautifully struck, ball then turf, and it's just a great way of starting to feel how you get onto that front foot whilst at the same time keeping that handle ahead in a natural way. We're not holding this angle, we're just letting it release through, but in the correct way. So, hope you loved this video. If you love this, you're gonna love this one here. Wonderful way on some of the basics on improving that ball striking with not just your irons, but your driver too. Of course, look, if you're new to the channel, press that little button down there. But until next week, have a great golfing week.